Joining me this evening for a quick chat on COVID-19 and tourism is Chandana Amardasa, expert in the field of tourism. A very good evening to you and welcome to the show, Chandana. Starting off, this is a second attack as far as the tourism industry is concerned. We saw on the 21st of April last year, the Easter Sunday attacks took place, and now a global pandemic plaguing not only Sri Lanka but the entire world as a whole. How are you gearing up?
So tourism industry from 1970 onwards, we have been facing so many obstacles. 71 struggle, and then 30 years of bloody war, and then of course again 87, between 87 to 90 riots, and then again tsunami, and then April 21st attack. It's now generally the pandemics are worse than tsunami and terrorist attacks. So as far as the Sri Lanka tourism industry is concerned, we were doing extremely well prior to April 21st attack. So we brought down nearly 2.3 million tourists, and which accounts to nearly about 4.8 billion US dollars. And we now have about 2.5 lakhs direct employment, and also 2.5 indirect employments, and plus 2 million dependents, which has the best money circulation in the country. In 2018, the industry contributes nearly 12.5% to the GDP of the country, which is very substantial.
Chandana, this is not a normal curfew, or this is not a normal epidemic that is plaguing only Sri Lanka. This is a global pandemic, and we saw a global pandemic since of late is reported in 1968, the Hong Kong flu. So this is happening after 1968. Have you all geared up yourselves to take on something of this sort in the next few months, or in the next few years for that matter?
We are never thought. As I said, the pandemics are always the most dangerous and the ultimate thing that we can ever expect as far as the worst scenarios are concerned in the world. But right now, as far as the industry is concerned, we need to be united. As a country, we need to be united. And the industry has so many segments, right? Hotels, tour operators, destination management companies, travel agents, the transportation, the guides, and everything. So the industry is being very well integrated industry. So if one segment goes down, other segment also will go down. So right now, our first priority is to be protected all these sectors related to the tourism industry.
Now, there is never a free meal or a free lunch, Chandana. It's applicable not only to the tourism industry, but all industries across the board. How will you brace yourselves in the next few months to take on the world, or even Sri Lanka's economy, to the next level? What would be your role?
Say, as I said, we are being one of the major contributor to the Sri Lanka's economy over the last 10 years. So right now, we are looking up to the government. We have no choice, because this has happened within a period of 11 months. The second catastrophic situation the industry is facing. So we sincerely request the government to have a comprehensive, quality, separate fiscal stimulus package for the industry.
But last year, when the April 21st attacks took place, the government did have a bailout package for the tourism industry, and it was a very cushioned and a well-balanced stimulus package for the tourism industry to recover itself, isn't it?
Last package also we have had so many issues, because most industries consist of nearly 85% of SMEs, right? And SMEs, most of the SMEs don't have any collaterals to give. So a lot of the assets are being already exhausted, right? And so right now, what the industry proposes is at least a 2-year moratorium, right? And whatever the working capital to be paid in 5 years, and also industry needs a very low percentage longer term loan for the refinancing. One of the most priorities of the industry is, because industry must restructure their debts now. Otherwise, industry cannot move on.
So you mean to say in the next few months there will be issues? Many SMEs or many small scale tour operators, many small scale hotels will close down in the next few months if this continues?
You're right. It's because since it's happening within a short period of nearly about 11 months, right? It can face a huge amount of job cuts. That means the employment of it. There are two main things the country must focus now as far as industry is concerned. Tourism industry, number one, to protect all the tourism companies which are related to either it can be DMCs, it can be hotels, it can be restaurants and catering services, it can be transportation, etc., etc. That's the priority. Number two is to protect the employment, right? So, because tourism is a very professional industry, we just can't get a boy and put the tourism tomorrow.
No, Chandra, as I said before, there is never a free meal or a free lunch. You can't expect the government to give out something for the tourism industry alone, because there is one pie which is 50 billion rupees. This has to be allocated to many industries across the board. So you cannot be selfish in that sense also.
Tourism has never been selfish. If you look at all the destination management companies and hotels, we contribute about 30 million US dollars annually on our own money to promote our destination without any support, right? Prior to 2019, we are one of the most heaviest tax industries in our country. Though we are a foreign exchange earner, we are never being recognized as a export-oriented industry.
So, Chandra, a wise man sent me this video today about the 10th apple effect. Now, what the 10th apple effect is all about is you initially get one apple when you are hungry and feeble, and when you get an abundance of apples, you start getting fed up of the apples, and come the 10th day, you start wondering, why do I have the apples? Why do I need the apples? I want a new lease of life. I want something different. So this is something very similar that is plaguing Sri Lanka at present. Not only Sri Lanka, but the world over. We were initially grateful for having jobs. We were initially grateful for getting our salaries on the 25th of every month. We were initially grateful for getting our salaries probably on the 1st of every month. But today, all our jobs are on the line. And this is affecting across the board, not only in Sri Lanka. This is something beyond our control. So how important is it for employees to now start thinking about their employers and start thinking, this is not it. We have to start contributing towards our businesses now as well. Isn't this important now?
So employees' contribution also, in a nutshell, how I look at this, as a country at the macro level, we need to be, there's a massive amount of unity is much needed for the country. So it can be politicians, it can be social workers, it can be private sector and the corporate guys, and also the many other sectors and essential services and the government service. Everyone should be united. So without a unity in this scenario, we can't move forward. So we need, this is a pandemic. The pandemic, as I said, is more dangerous than a tsunami and a terrorism. So it's we don't know when it's going to be finished. So basically we need to be well united as a nation. So if all the sectors are not united, all the civil society is not united, irrespective of race, religion, whatever, that is the need of the hour for us to move forward as a nation.
But Chandra, that is a very problem facing Sri Lanka at present. The industries are not united. You have the tea industry working towards their cause, you have the tourism industry working towards their cause, you have the Export Development Board which wakes up after 3 weeks to talk about how important it is to start exporting goods in the country. So almost all the sectors are divided, and it is important for all these sectors to unite for a common cause, at least during this pandemic, and at least until we come out on top of this pandemic, isn't it?
All the industries have their own goals. All the industries have their own concerns. All the industries trying to protect themselves and their employments and their companies. And also, as a nation, right, we must look at this as a one nation, right? If you don't look at this as a one nation, right, collectively, very difficult for us to come out on this situation.
So, Chandra, we have always been a resilient nation. We saw the 1983 riots happening in Sri Lanka, we still came forward. We know the JP insurrection in 88-89, we still came out. We know the tsunami took place in Sri Lanka, we still came on top. 2009, we ended a 3-decade-long war, we still came out. And then last year, we thought terrorism was at that's it. We won't see terrorism again. Then we saw terrorist bombings happening in Sri Lanka at many locations which were roamed with tourists in the country. So how are we going to move forward now? Do you think we will pass this through as well, and we will move forward, and we can leave this behind and say, guess what? We have made a milestone in history.
Yeah. Rather, the biggest question is there is no vaccine to this. The moment we find a vaccine, the world finds a vaccine to this, right? That still basically psychologically, it will give a huge moral boost to the entire world to move on with their businesses, right? As far as when there is a signal of some sort of easing out solutions coming from across the world, so then as a nation we can move forward with our business. Particularly in tourism, we are being highly resilient industry in 30 years, and we have become world number 1 3 times, rated by the leading publications of the world. Within 8 years, 3 times.
How long do you see this plague or this pandemic wreaking havoc in the tourism industry, at least in Sri Lanka alone? Give us a time frame.
So it's about health authorities to know how long basically to move on this pandemic, and it will get ease out, or else getting eradicated from our country. But tourism industry to come back as of now, it will take full 2 years. It will take full 2 to 2.5 years to come back, because right now all the airlines are grounded. Entire industry across the world, tourism is still stands at a standstill situation. So for us to come back, it will take 2.5 years.
Thank you very much, Chandra Amardasa, an expert in the tourism field, for joining us this evening on the show tonight. I leave you with a quote, as I always do. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. A happy Sinhala and Hindu New Year to all of you.